This is the Personal Transformation Experience podcast. My name is David Brand.
And I'm Maureen Brand.
So, what does people pleasing look like? I'm going to go first on this one because I feel like I've been doing it since I was a child. And I thought about this today. One of the earliest examples of people pleasing, I used to go back and forth. My parents divorced when I was 8 years old, and I used to go back and forth between the two households, and they were like night and day, Mars and Jupiter, whatever analogy you want to get to. My parents were polar opposites. In a lot of ways the same, but I'm not going to focus on that today. So when I was a teenager, at my mother's house, I literally was a little bit more able to have my hair down. This was a time where guys usually wore their hair a little bit longer. My hair kind of covered up my ears, and I didn't always shave, and, you know, when I hit puberty. So, but I knew my father, being a devout Jehovah's Witness, really wanted to see his son look a certain way. And when I would go to my father's house, I would comb my hair differently. I would purposely try to make it look shorter. I would tuck my hair behind my ears so I wouldn't get a comment from him about the length of my hair, and I would shave. So I purposely changed the way I looked, even though I liked the way I looked when I was at my mother's house, because she didn't have a concern about my hairstyle, but I knew my father did. So I purposely changed my appearance every weekend that I went to my father's house. I could just go on and on with the examples, things I didn't do, things I pretended to do, things I said to try and make my father pleased with either how I looked or how I presented myself or what kind of behaviors I was doing. Some of this resulted from, outright punishment for not doing certain things. Some of it arose from shame and guilt. Right, like, how could you have your hair that way? How could your hair be that long? How could you do that? How could you wear that? Right, and not just about my father, but God. You know, we're always God. And, well, how do you think God feels about? How do you think Jesus feels about the way you're looking? You know, you're probably making God really upset right now. I mean, God's probably angry right now with you because of my hair, right? Even though I don't know. A lot of publications the witnesses had and other things I've seen from other religions, I thought Jesus had long hair, but that's a story for another day.
But there's the guilt, right?
So I didn't really understand that. So, so I mean, I kind of learned this pleasing people mentality. And in fact, when I was 8 years old, I designed my own superhero costume. It's called the Everything Kid, because I wanted to be pleasing to everybody. I wanted to fix other people. I wanted to make sure everybody liked me. And that became a pervasive theme throughout my life and relationships until very recently. How about you, Maureen? How has people pleasing shown up in your life?
Well, I'll tell you, what I'm drinking has 2 shots of vodka. No, I'm just kidding. I need a potent drink today. I'm feeling very punchy.
I don't know why.
Not at all people
pleasing. I
pleasing.
did anything to you. But
See, that was a people pleasing statement. What the hell? You didn't do anything. I don't know. Maybe I didn't sleep well. I mean, we walked up, 10 miles of hills,
about
fucking
3.
both ways, and I still didn't get it out of my system. No, I'm kidding. This actually is really good Bengal spice tea. I just had to keep taking deep breaths. Tea and beer. So, no, I will tell you that, okay, first of all, people pleasers, don't know how to say no.
Right.
And I'm sorry is like something they are pervasively saying. It's like, I'm sorry, everything's I'm sorry.
Right. I'm sorry to ask you this, but...
yeah. I'm sorry, but what? Right. I'm sorry, but was that a joke?
Or,
I'm sorry.
Or somebody steps on your foot at a concert and you say sorry to them.
You say sorry to them, yeah. Which is something I would do, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, people pleasers, I'm just looking at these notes because I wrote some really good stuff here. But, yeah, I mean, it's, you have the guilt of everything. You don't know how to create boundaries, and... you really have no boundaries, and you don't, no is not something that is
Maybe
in your vocabulary.
Maybe you're a doormat, right? That
you're like a doormat. You allow people to, treat you, make you the butt of their jokes and stuff. So my experiences was, that was like my family, right? I mean, I pretty much I felt like I was a punching bag.
They actually came up with a picture of the family.
Yeah.
With you running behind everybody,
right?
Because it was a drawing.
It was a drawing, yeah, because they always said I was late, and that was like I was always, oh yeah, what time are you going to be there? Well, So yeah, I mean, they're always like, they thought I was just like this funny person. Very funny.
Funny to them.
Funny to
Yeah.
them. But
Right.
you know, I think it's important to remember that you know, it's self-respect, right? And if you're going to have some self-respect, you have to start showing people how to treat you.
Right.
And I no longer allow that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I call them out on it. I not allow them to be the butt of their jokes. If they're going to have an event, you know, and they're like, oh yeah, it's at 3:00. What time you think you're going to be here? Well, I'm not going to be late because guess what? I won't be there. You know, can't be late to something you're not going to, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's pretty much, you know, I just don't go. I don't enjoy going. And if I don't want to do something and I'm not going to get any pleasure out of it, I'm not doing it.
Right.
You know, I mean, unless it's something for my own well-being, like, you know, going to the doctor and getting a shot for something, right? Or whatever, taking care of my health or taking medicine. But, yeah, as far as, you know, people pleasing, it's important that we create boundaries.
Yeah.
Learn how to say no. No is a full sentence, by the
Right.
way. But understanding the root cause. I think you need to look at, you know, did you grow up in an environment where, you know, no wasn't an option? And yes, you know, what were you trying to achieve? But I think more for me, I grew up in an environment where no was not an option. If I said no, I'd get hit, right?
Oh yeah, same here.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I was not allowed to say
Right.
no. You know, there was no, right? I mean, and I had to do something. And, you know, you become a people pleaser when you're trying to make the other person happy. And then you try to anticipate their needs,
Right.
which is something I got really good at doing, anticipating other people's needs, where it became like, you know, compulsive.
I saw you do that in parenting as well.
Yes, anticipating needs. But I will say, most parents, moms especially, try to anticipate their children's needs because they can't talk, right? So they get really good at that. But that can become something that is trauma induced, which it was for me. So, I learned a lot and had to pull back a lot. And now I'll really allow that. If they think like I'll just go Jefferson Fisher on them and be like, your material's not funny. You need to get some new stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I've been leading people in professional financial services for over 20 years, and people pleasing has showed up there for me. And it was only recently I really realized how it was showing up in my leadership style or lack thereof, right? I don't think that I reached my maximum potential as a leader because the people pleasing behavior was indeed holding me back. But what it can look like when you're leading, and I think this is even parenting too, same thing, making excuses for poor performance, right? Somebody didn't do something. Oh, well, I'm sorry, you had a lot of homework tonight, or I'm sorry, I know you're working on 3 different projects. And I mean, I would apologize to my people because they didn't get something done and say, well, I'm sorry, but I understand, you know, you had, you know, your kid was sick or you had 3 projects. Or,
Right. If you find yourself saying I'm sorry a lot,
yeah,
then you need to, those are red flags.
absolutely.
That's your red flag.
So right alongside that, right, failing to hold employees accountable or really thinking that it's our job to first make a priority of our employees' happiness over accountability for what we expect them to do. And ourselves working long hours, either because we are taking on things that other people are dumping on our desk or because as a leader, we are not delegating effectively to other people because we feel bad. And I've had leaders that I've had to coach, well, I don't want to give them all this work because I feel bad. I'm like, okay, well, you need to look very closely at that because what the reverse is happening is you're making the employee feel, you're creating a situation where the employee feels bad. You know, we don't make other people feel bad. So I corrected myself quickly there. That we don't own other people's responses and emotions.
Right.
So, but you can create a situation where the employee feels, hey, this person's doing all the work. They don't trust me. They don't believe in me. I'm not getting challenging work. I'm out of here, right? So in the sense where you think, well, I feel bad to give them more work, you're actually creating a situation where they don't feel satisfied and fulfill their work, and they leave. So it has so many negative consequences to be a people-pleasing manager or leader. Not delegating, I said that. And seeking advice from everyone prior to making a decision. I don't know how many times that as a leader, I wanted to present a project plan or a proposal, and I would just be going around, what do you think? What do you think? Should I do this? Is it a good idea? And one of the guys that I work with now, He's like, you're the subject matter expert. It's your job to tell us what you think, what you believe we should be doing, and have us question you, not involve us in the decision-making process. So that was a powerful moment for me. I'll never forget, about 6 years ago. Like, yeah, why am I asking everybody? And now, there was no epiphany, and I became a better leader in that moment. I'm not going to say, I saw the burning bush and I was transformed in that moment, but it took a while, for that to sink in.
Yeah.
Except blame easily, even when it's not their fault, right? I've had people, screw up, and I take the fall for it. And then there is some extent of extreme ownership as a leader too. But if you have a peer or something that creates a situation where you take the fall for it, or your boss has you take the fall for a bad decision they made, that's not appropriate. You have to protect yourself. Justifying responses, like, I can't take something on because blah, blah, blah. You don't know anybody an explanation. You're like,
no.
I'm not in a position to do that. I'm not in a position to explain that to you. Rushing your decisions out of fear of intimidation, looking for full agreement. You don't need, other people you work with, unless your boss giving you a direct order, can't intimidate you into doing something else or doing their work. So that I just wanted to talk about a little bit about how that shows up at work.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's important to remember that, you don't, it's okay to disappoint others to take care of yourself. You're not going to make everybody happy, especially when you create boundaries and say no. And when you have a boundary, you create the boundary, the other person does nothing. You're not asking them to do anything.
No, not at all.
It's your boundary, right?
Yeah.
They don't have to do anything. You're the one that's saying no.
Right.
They do nothing.
That's right. And I love how this ties back to Dr. Becky's two things are true, right? You use it with children because you use it with people too. Two things are true. I understand it's disappointing for me to tell you that I'm not going to do that, but I'm not going to do that.
Right. And you don't even have to say that.
Yeah. Well, you can validate someone's feelings about it if you want. I mean, you don't have to.
No, because I would take unless it's a child.
Yeah.
My perspective is that it's not my responsibility to validate your feelings. I'm creating the boundary. You don't have, this is a no for me. And, that's just it.
Yeah.
We're going to move on.
Well, I'm not saying to apologize for how they're feeling. I'm sorry you're disappointed. I'm not saying, never say that. Right.
Right.
I mean,
but you don't apologize. Yeah.
I'm just saying, to me, that's optional, right? If you want to say to somebody, hey, I understand you're disappointed that I'm not going to take this work on, but I'm not taking this work on. Right. I mean, so it's just another way to do it. I don't think it's good or bad necessarily. It's personal choice.
Yeah.
If you say, I'm sorry that you're disappointed, that you never have to say you're sorry for someone's feelings.
Right, because you're apologizing. Yeah, what are you apologizing for? It's their feelings. And how do you even know that they're disappointed unless they said, well, I'm disappointed you said that? Well, okay. You can be disappointed.
So some of the other notes I know that we took down discussion is how to say no without apologizing, allowing time for responses and decisions, right? Nobody gets to rush you, right? Or somebody wants to talk to you. I have this with relatives, right? I only have 15 minutes, right? So I don't go on and on and on for an hour. I have some relatives that I talk to periodically, and I might talk to them on the way home from work because I know there's a finite time to my ride, right?
Yeah.
So I can, not that I need to do that. I can simply say I only have 15 minutes for this call, right? You don't have to make excuses. That's actually people pleasing. Than to kind of go out of your way to say, well, I'm calling you on my way home, and
Mm-hmm.
once I get home saying I'm home and I can't talk to you any longer. You that's almost
That's yeah.
Yeah. Is that passive aggressive?
Well,
I'm not sure what the right term is for it, but it's not assertive.
No, it's not
Right.
assertive. It's kind of wishy-washy. And look, you make the phone call and you don't even have to give them advance. Just talk and just say, you know what? I have to go. I'll talk to you later. It sounds like you're having a hard time hanging up, so I'm just going to hang up right now.
And then back to the thing that you said about people joking around, right?
Right.
Have you had people like, what do you got, nuts for brains or something? And say, I'm sorry. I don't allow anyone to talk to me that way.
You're sorry. You're not sorry.
Right.
Why would you say I'm sorry?
You're right. See how ingrained that could be? Mm-hmm. But you can just simply say, excuse me, I don't allow anyone to talk to me that way.
You don't even have to say, excuse me, why are you excusing yourself?
Okay.
There's no preface to that. I don't allow people to talk to me that way.
If you look in the bio for this podcast, we say this is challenging conversations. This is
I
the
would disagree with
model
all those
for
prefaces.
challenging behavior. You should challenge your partner, your spouse,
Yeah.
your children, your boss.
See, I
right?
told you I was punchy today.
You're getting better. No,
I'm
this
not.
is good because I don't know that you would have done this 10 years ago.
No, I know. I would have been saying
So-
that I would be prefacing all the same ways. But
You
now I'm
have
just
been-
like, I don't give a shit.
You have been personally transformed. So that's the podcast, because if we weren't personally transformed from
Right.
these challenging
Oh, I'm
conversations,
working on it.
then we'd be a bunch of hypocrites
I am.
sitting here telling you how we did this, right?
Yeah.
So self-respect. I know that you took some notes on this too,
Yeah.
right? When you have self-respect, you naturally hold boundaries,
Right.
So how you feel about yourself, if you respect yourself, it's not you shouldn't have to work too hard at holding a boundary.
No.
When you
But let's be clear. When you first start, if you're a people pleaser and you first start doing these things, it's really uncomfortable.
Plus, people who know you really well are like, whoa.
Right. They're going to
kind-
take They're
what
going
did
to
you
be
eat for
taken
breakfast
aback.
today?
Right.
I
They're
got
gonna,
that.
They're going to say stuff. Yeah. They're not going to expect this from you, and it's going to feel uncomfortable. But I think it's important that you realize that that discomfort is kind of leading you down to you're prioritizing yourself.
Your discomfort and the other people's discomfort too.
Right. They're not going to be comfortable,
Right.
but you can't care about that because
That's
that's
right.
not your problem.
That's right.
You're creating a boundary. The other person does nothing. If they're uncomfortable, oh, well, they're going to have to get used to it because guess what? They've been pushing, into your personal space and being inappropriate with you and saying things
Yeah.
that, were not okay. And you let it, and then you become resentful and angry, and it boils up inside till you want to fucking explode. And then you're screaming at people who you care about, and you're taking your anger out
Right.
on everybody else.
Yep, absolutely. Very bad.
Very bad.
Very bad. How about it? How to say no without feeling like a villain. So I love this. This is your way of holding a boundary.
Right.
But I think you kind of just said this, right? It may feel uncomfortable at first, but after a while, it comes easier to do.
Right.
So.
Yeah, discomfort is a necessary part of growth. If you have to embrace the discomfort. And if saying no is saying, understand that no is a sign of building healthier habits for yourself. And you're building your own sense of confidence and self-esteem.
Yeah.
Right? And it will start to feel good. It doesn't feel right at first, but you have to know that it's going to take a little time. And once you start, because if you've never done it before, it's going to be like, this feels weird.
It's kind of like if you never lifted weights before and you start lifting 5-pound weights, it's going to hurt a little bit.
Well, yeah, it's going to be
hard,
uncomfortable.
right?
Yeah.
And then you keep working up.
Yeah, but now right, exactly. So now, when I first started lifting weights, I was like, oh my God, like holy soreness, right?
Right.
Everything hurt. But now I love the push
Right.
and I love the weights. And I know that the heavier I lift, the more I'm growing, the healthier I'm getting, the stronger I'm getting. So I know in my head now and I see the progress. I could see it. I could see it on the scale. I could see it in my clothes. I could see it in my body. Everything's changing. Everything.
I pushed back on you this morning, remember? Right now, I wouldn't have done that normally, but we were walking.
About what?
You said that I was, you sensed that I was
impatiently
impatient.
waiting, right.
And I asked you very specifically, I said, what is the behavior that you saw that led you to say that? You said you can put your finger on it. I said, then to me, it's not valid feedback. And I'm learning to do this at work with people.
Well, then you said, I feel like, those are your feelings, right? How many times you tell me I can't make you feel anything?
Well, you said that I appeared impatient without providing examples
So
of behavior.
here's what your
You don't know what
behaviors
I
were.
feel.
You were standing there, putting your fingers together, and then you said out loud, okay, I'll put this on pause. And rather than kind of do a little circle in the thing while I grab tissues. So it appeared to me that you were feeling impatient.
That's fine, but my point I'm trying to make for this podcast is that, and it's good that we had that conversation, was that I just didn't let you tell me that was your perception of how I feel with it, because I wanted you to tell me what was the behavior you saw.
Well, did you actually feel impatient? Were you irritated
No.
that I ran inside to get the thing?
No,
Okay.
not at all.
All right. So then that's
No, because I'm practicing mindfulness and being
Right.
and accepting the moment, the present. So. No, I wasn't. I might have been years ago, but not today. And sometimes this happens, right? People see past behaviors and they presume that somebody's acting a certain way because of how they have in the past.
Well, so my perception, Mr. Non-people pleaser now, is that when you're asked to wait, you struggle with doing nothing with your time because you have to make the best use of your time all the time. So unless you're doing something productive, standing and waiting is not productive for you.
Okay.
And
well,
I feel like that you struggle with that.
that's not what this podcast is about.
No.
So we can save that for another episode then. So the other thing is identifying your own needs, even when they conflict with others' expectations, right? We're not always here to fulfill other people's expectations. So start asking yourself, what do I want in the situation?
Right. What do you need?
What does that look like?
Right. So, yeah, I mean, I would say we're not here to fulfill anybody's expectations except our own.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, sorry. Not sorry, but that doesn't work for me. My expectation is about my behavior, and what you expect, that's on you. You know, if you want to, if I'm working for you, I would expect you to give me clear expectations of what my job is. And that's that. What was the question?
I don't remember. The other thing, too, is about wanting to be liked, right?
Yes.
And I know as a leader, right, people are like, well, if I come down hard on them and call them out because, you know, it takes them 3 times as long to do this task as someone else in the department, they're going to be mad at me. They're not going to like me. They may not want to talk to me. And people get hung up on that with their kids.
Right.
Well, I want my kids to like me. I want my kids to be friends with me, you know, but the fact of the matter is, then when you become a doormat to people, allow them to do things that that becomes pervasive in other relationships they have, number one, which is going to cause them to have tough relationships later on in life, but sets yourself up for unhappiness.
Yeah, I'm coaching a people pleaser right now. They really struggle. As a matter of fact, they were apologizing for something this morning that they didn't need to apologize for, you know, in a text. And I mean, I'll address it tomorrow because I don't have time today. But yeah, it's, you know, and about, you know, their child and wanting their child to like them, but at the same time, you know, trying to be a parent and struggling with that boundary.
Yeah,
it's a conflict with this person because they're trying to hold boundaries and enforce rules, but at the same time, you know, of course you want your child to like you, but that's not what parenting really is. And we'll have that conversation. But yeah, to me, it's important that you're not a people pleaser with your child because you need to make sure that, you know, you're not here to be your child's best friend. You're here to be a sturdy leader for them. And they're not going to like that all the time. And it's okay if, you know, they're disappointed.
right.
That's something I need to get, you know, it took me a while to get into my head, but, you know, and I said straight out to my own child, you know, you're going to be disappointed and you're not going to like some things that I say, but I have to say them and I have to enforce this. And their response was, I don't, you know, something about to the effect of, I don't want to like everything you say. I don't think I'd feel good about that.
It works, right? I
Yeah.
mean, because
So they
people do want
understand.
boundaries. People
Yeah.
do want structure inherently.
Especially your
Employees
kids.
do.
Yeah.
People in a relationship want to
Yeah.
know where they stand, and your kids. Yeah.
And you can hold a boundary while still getting information, right? So I learned,
Yeah.
I was listening to Dr. Becca the other day on a podcast, and it's true, you know, you absolutely can tell me more. You know you're going to hold the boundary. You know that, but the child needs to be heard. So it's so important that they're heard and they're validated. This is really hard. I know that this is really hard and you really want this and you feel really frustrated, and that's okay. You're allowed to have those feelings, and I'm here for you and we'll get through this together. But at the same time, you know, this is not negotiable,
Right.
whatever it is. Like, this is something you need to do. That's part of the rules in this house. And, you know, it's important that you do it. And, you know, I know you don't like it, but I'm here to be here for you, but hold the boundary at the same time, you know, and you can get their feedback. You can ask them what else they would want to do. And doesn't mean you're going to change the boundary. It doesn't mean you're going to give in. It just means you're letting them be heard. And I really believe that once they're heard, they'll be more, you know, they'll be more likely to just comply to it and not, because now they feel heard.
Right.
And that's really the point. If you shut them down and be like, this is not an argument, we're not talking about this, and walk out, of course the child's going to be, wouldn't you be? I would be frustrated. If somebody's like, this is what we're doing. Well, I'm sorry, you know, excuse me, but I need to be heard. You know, like, this doesn't work for me.
Yeah, even at work, I had to coach somebody one time who had a team of 6 people, and she says, "I always strive to make sure everybody agrees and we have consensus." I'm like,
No,
"It's
it's
not going to
yeah.
happen." I mean, it might on occasion, I said, but your job as a leader is to hear everybody to the point that you just said, and then make sure the best idea goes forward, and everyone else is supporting it.
Yeah.
Right? Even where I work on a team of people leading a company, we're not all going to agree. The main thing is that we agree to move forward with one proposal, right? Depending
Right.
what it is, and we all support it.
Right. And don't get me wrong. I think it's reasonable to listen to somebody else's idea. And if it makes sense and it's better, I think we have to also practice some flexibility, right? The
Absolutely.
function of your boundary or the rule or whatever it is still can be upheld while giving the child a sense of agency or the person a sense of agency and saying, that's a really good idea. Moving forward, we can try that, still maintaining the boundary. And I think good leaders do that, right? They listen, they can tweak things if they're reasonable, and you're still getting the job done, right? I mean,
Yeah.
or it could make things more productive,
Right.
right? So I think even with my own child, I think it's important. Like, I listen to them because they have great ideas sometimes, and I try to put on their lap to solve certain problems.
Yeah.
For me, this doesn't work. How would you solve this? And
Yeah,
let
you're
them,
teaching critical thinking skills.
and big problem solving ideas. I
Right.
mean, it's important. So it's okay. And then I could take their ideas into consideration, and we could put it together and say, you know what? These are my needs. If my needs are met and your needs are met and this works together, then that's okay. Flexibility is key too, right? You don't have to be rigid and stick to one way. So I think that's important too.
Absolutely. Did you have any other points that you thought you wanted to put across today? I feel like I kind of got to all the ones because for me, it showed up in relationships, it showed up in parenting for me, it showed up at work. And I've been much more aware of it. I mean, everything starts with awareness and consciousness, and then you move to looking at it differently.
Yeah, I think it's important to mention that there are hidden costs of people pleasing. I think that when you are constantly saying yes and you become resentful,
Yeah.
and you can ruminate on things, perseverate on situations or event, interactions, you're avoiding conflict. I hate conflict, probably because of the way I grew up. Everybody's in conflict, like it was just.
Well, yeah, if somebody's going to hit you or scream at you,
Right.
I mean, that
So I
does create
can't-
an inherent fear of conflict.
Right. I don't like conflict. I will avoid it at every cost. But that doesn't mean I won't stick up for myself now.
Yeah.
Like, I won't seek conflict, and I will seek to avoid a conflict, but I won't seek it at the expense of my own self-respect and values. And I think that when we have this conflict and we don't say no, and we are people pleasing, that it's against our core values about what we believe for ourselves and what we want for our life. And when you do something that goes against your own core values, I think it's, that has a negative effect on your mental health, your ability to rest well,
Yeah.
and just all areas of your well-being. So I think to do things in alignment with your core values is to have self-respect and gain confidence and be confident and be assertive and be able, no, I will say it again, no is a full sentence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Feel free to say no, stand up for yourself, and nobody can make you do anything. I mean, even if you have an employment situation where somebody's constantly asking you to do things that are not appropriate, I mean, you have the right to leave. You have a relationship, you have a right to leave. Right? So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing is always feeling stuck. Like, well, if I don't do this, then this person's going to do this to me, or
Right.
it's hard. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying, I'm sure there's some people out there in some really rough situations, abusive spouses, things like that, or bosses, and I'm not generalizing every situation like it's a piece of cake, right? To just get out of the situation, but if you can find a way to stick up for yourself, yeah, you need to.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's it's important that you create those boundaries and ways to do that. Like, for example, if you know there's a family event, like it's a family situation, there's an event, there's a birthday party, you don't have to go.
That's right.
You could say no, and then that person whose birthday it is, call them up, talk to them, wish them a happy birthday, invite them out to dinner, invite them to your house separately, right? And if they continue to like make jokes and ridicule you, that's
you can
when,
leave. Right, you can give people a warning, or you can just go. Right?
Yeah, you could say,
give
you
them a
know,
warning.
if you're going to be in this house and do that, I did it.
Yeah.
I did it with when Henry was.
Yeah.
You know, like you don't get to do that in my house. You can leave.
Right.
You know, like if you're going to act that way or talk this way, there's the door. This is my house.
Right.
You know, and if you're out to dinner, check please. This dinner is over. I'm not going to allow you to talk to me this way. It's not okay.
Yeah, and people do shift. People do shift and respond to you differently when you make those changes, and that's what the show is all about, right?
Right.
That we work on the inside, make these changes in ourselves. Other people have to change the way they relate to us.
Yeah, because you will show up differently. You'll have a different energy, different vibe. You'll, you know, people will realize they'll feel it in your presence. They'll feel it in your presence before you even open your mouth that you're not here to take any shit from anybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah.